Hello, entrepreneurs, designers, digital nomads, and business gurus. Welcome to Circle Live, our internet talk show just for Circle members. I'm Sam Z, one of your community managers.
And I'm Sarah G, one of your other community managers. And we have our colleague Taylor Lagoy managing the chat. Last month, we talked to Justin Maybe about diversifying income, doing your taxes, and other money matters.
This month, we're speaking with a master of content, not just creating it, but using it to convert customers. Paige Brunton of PaigeBrunton.com uses her videos, social media, and all-around digital presence to get people clicking. So we're going to be talking to her pretty shortly. Sarah, what gets you clicking?
Yesterday, I was scrolling through Instagram stories and got an ad for a shirt that had the pattern of items that you'd find at a dinner party on it: flowers, a bottle of wine, some pasta, olives. Clicked, browsed the entire website, gave them my email and phone number, and then kind of like jury was out on whether $80 was too much for that purchase. So I have not yet bought it, but I clicked a lot of times on that website. And then they sent me 2 follow-up emails to ask me if I wanted to complete my purchase.
How are the follow-up emails? Were they desperate?
No, they did that thing where they're like, we saw you clicking. And I'm like, ugh, stop watching me.
I think I'm sort of used to that by now, that people online that I've never met are just going to know activities that I have engaged in just based on my behavior. So whereas that used to be creepy to me, it sort of feels normal. This weekend, I went to actually something called an attention lab. What that is, I'll explain really briefly, is a group of people that tries to take intentional action to revise our attention and how we make our attention useful to ourselves. I won't go too much into it, but what was really interesting about it is being this practice that is kind of about having more awareness about what you're clicking on online and what you're maybe not thinking about when you're clicking online. I found out about this attention lab on Instagram through an Instagram ad. So just goes to show you everybody's got to be clicking. Everybody's looking to convert. But now it's time for you. Before we do a quick ad break, I want to ask the audience, what gets you clicking? What's a piece of content that captures your attention in the vast, uncharted landscape of content? What's one home base you always find yourself coming back to? Videos, PDF downloads, promises to change your life. In the chat, tell us the last piece of content, not your own, that got you to convert. And pretty soon, we will be back. As always, today's Circle Live is brought to you by the Circle Referral Payment Benefit. With eligibility expansion to Rhode Island, Iowa, Nevada, and Kentucky, even more Circle members are now able to earn. You can earn $200 for referring a new annual commerce website or $300 for a new Digital Product Pro plan. You can also earn by referring new annual Acuity scheduling subscriptions and new annual email campaign subscriptions. Fans of the CRPB say it is one of the easiest partner programs to sign up for. You can start earning commissions by talking to your clients about the Squarespace products that can help grow their businesses. To sign up for the Circle Referral Benefit payments right now and start working towards the 4 subscription unlock threshold, visit support.squarespace.com and search Circle Referral. We're back. So what kind of responses are we getting? What are people clicking on, Sarah?
All right. So Christy is watching puppy videos. Same. I get lots of those. Also, those like cat meme videos. I get a lot of those as well. Becca is clicking every time there is a freebie tool that can help my business. I'm on so many newsletters. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Me too. I feel like we're both big newsletter people, Sam.
Absolutely. I click on so many newsletters. I have way too many emails in my inbox right now to handle.
Yeah, the funny thing though, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Becca, is like I subscribe to a newsletter and like I love it, but then I'll get like another ad or like someone else will promote it and I'll subscribe to it like again or like with a different email. And now I'm getting the same email multiple times. It's a personal problem. And Janessa says if someone's copy is transparent, fun, weird, I'll click. Also, basically anything bright and colorful, I'm all yours.
This is great. Great to hear from you all. Please keep that chat going today. We'll be returning to it later in the Q&A, but also paying attention to it throughout. Let's bring our guest to the stage. How
Let's do
about
it.
it?
Yes.
Usually it's said that content is king, but today content is queen. Paige Brunton is a designer, video creator, and business educator. Through her YouTube channel and digital courses, she has taught countless students how to get the upper hand on their digital presence online. Paige Brunton, welcome to Circle Life.
Hello, hello. So thrilled to be here.
Really, really thrilled to have you. To start, I think it's relevant to explain how we booked you for this episode. I've known about you forever. Everyone knows about you. We've talked about having you on the show before, but for this episode specifically, Sarah and I were talking. I said I wanted to do a show on content. So I did a Google search on Squarespace content or good content on Squarespace, something like that. Your videos, I think 3 of them were the first to show up. So I want to ask you, what did you do to put that content in front of me?
Okay. It has been a long journey. So if anyone has read my blog before, you will know that I started talking about Squarespace like 7 or 8 years ago and have consistently posted about it, now also on a YouTube channel, for that amount of time. And so one of my biggest hacks to overnight success is twice a week content for literally 7 years. So very easy, obviously.
It's so nice when something has such a fast return on investment like that, Paige. Just kidding. Your
Yes, exactly.
consistent effort is really admirable.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The important thing I think is exactly that is like this is an incredible marketing strategy. It is not a fast marketing strategy. If you want to get a client tomorrow, this is not the best thing to do. If you want to build a long-term sustainable business or sell anything scalable in your business in the future and not just do one-to-one services, then content is going to be a key factor of getting you there.
You know, this actually reminds me, Sam, of our past conversation about passive income, and I feel like the takeaway from that Circle Live episode was like, there's no such thing as passive income. I feel like there's no such thing as like you rank first on Google overnight, and I feel like in the case of both, and I'm sure we'll talk about it today, but like it's totally worth it, but it totally requires a sustained investment, and I think it's
Absolutely.
like good that we're covering that up front.
Yes, I know. The truth is important. Yes.
So over time, you know, I'm sure you said it's a journey. Over the time that you've been creating content, what to you has emerged as really good content?
Okay, so I think when it comes to, you can think from a few different perspectives. So if it depends on the type of content you want to create, the platform you want to create on. When it comes to a blog, it's all about, of course, the SEO factor and being found in search. The key thing, which I had to learn when I also went onto YouTube, was that is not the way that it works on YouTube, however. So I think the first thing to know is that the platform that you're posting the content on, it is very different. And I did not expect that. When I decided to do YouTube, the reason for it was because I had just been writing blog posts. They're definitely easier to produce. But I noticed that when I would search things related to Squarespace, that videos would also come up. And I was like, oh man, that's a lot of work. Like that is a lot harder. You need like a, nice setting and you have to get dressed and everything for that. And so wasn't loving the idea. But once I started getting into it, I really enjoy it. And so the thing to know is that different platforms have, again, completely different ways that you're going to be found there. So learn the specific platform that you're interested in. And I also, on the one hand, like I have an unpopular opinion potentially on keywords, is that I really didn't attempt to go for any keywords. Like I just found personally SEO research so unbelievably boring that I couldn't bring myself to do it. So what I did was I was like, I'm just gonna write the answers to things which I was trying to figure out myself, or to emails which I got, or posts which I saw in Facebook groups that were questions, or just if I learned something recently on Squarespace, I'm just gonna post it onto the blog basically. And I had it on my to-do list to, go back and, make sure the keywords were in the right places and everything. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And then started ranking very well, and then realized, you know what, if you just write really good content, like that is actually the most important thing, more so than just going after the keywords. There was some strategic, aspects to it, and I would recommend. I think YouTube is an incredible research platform for people to make use of, because you can go and see in a blog, you don't know what's the most popular on someone else's blog. In podcast episodes, you don't know what's the most popular. But on YouTube, you can sort people's videos by the most popular. And so, yes, feel free to go creep my channel and compete with me on my most popular videos.
So it sounds like there's two strategies in play that I want to hit upon for a second. You mentioned, you're doing a lot of planning, but you're also leaving room to be reactive to
Mhm.
new things coming up. Like you said, that when there's a new feature out, you're going to go and release a blog post or a video about that. So is it really just a balance between those two things, planning ahead and also being able to improv a little?
Yeah. Okay, so one thing which I actually don't ever attempt to create content on is the latest features. For the reason that it is a very short shelf life, and I want blog posts or videos that are gonna get me traffic and leads 3 years from now, basically. So whatever the latest feature is, I actually don't cover it. I don't think I've ever actually written a post on that. But I really think about what has long-term potential, what is something that someone could be searching years from now. However, I could say that when Squarespace changes things, which I know everyone in the comments who has had this frustration before, when they change things and your video or something goes out of date, do know that that's a great opportunity to get in there and produce the next one. And so if you notice that there's a gap specifically on YouTube in the amount of time where there's been one of those like mega Squarespace tutorials, and the interface has changed somewhat, then that's a really good time to release a video on that.
Yeah, I know this is something that we hear from content creators a lot is, the platform's always evolving. And I think that's such a good thing, right? We want Squarespace to always be growing. There's so much that we all want from it. But I love that you've taken a very clear line on I'm gonna make stuff that's gonna be really evergreen. Sounds like you're probably saving yourself a couple headaches.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think I feel like we talked about this maybe in our pre-show conversation, but have you ever made content that people have found unhelpful, or how did you kind of hit your groove from the beginning?
Mhm. Um, okay, unhelpful. I'm sure there's plenty of posts that was not helpful to anyone. I do always think about how can I frame something in a way which is useful to someone else. So for example, say I go on a trip to Paris. Unless I'm Kim Kardashian, no one cares about my trip to Paris. I'm not famous, and so therefore it doesn't make a difference. However, if I take that same trip to Paris, for example, and frame it as the 10 most Instagrammable spots in Paris, or a 72-hour guide to Paris, for example, that is suddenly, it's the same trip, it's the same experience, but you framed it in a way which is genuinely useful for someone else. So always think about that. How can I, again, unless you're internet famous or real life famous, then that's not going to be super helpful for people. The other thing which I would say is think about your person holistically. So it's not just about search. The one thing which I think I do slightly differently, and it's been a long-term progression to get to this point and to realize that this is important. But I came to the realization at one point, I was like, I don't want to just be the internet's talking head on Squarespace videos. What is that? Does that get me a sale in my business? Someone watches my video and then immediately leaves and never watches anything else. That's not very helpful. So I really think about how can I build a relationship outside of just helpful content. And so that also means I think about who is my ideal client, and then I think about what else is happening in their life. What else do they want? And I mean, if you've been your own ideal client, then it makes it a lot easier to think through those things. Myself as a business owner, I love to see the behind the scenes of other people's businesses. So that's something which I'm very conscious and enjoy sharing now, which I always thought no, just go after search terms, just, produce the educational content and everything. And that's when I realized that there's more to a person than just that. And if you can connect on a deeper level on the fact that you love traveling to the same place, or there's any connection point which you can have with the person, you're also a mom or you're also a whatever, that is such an important thing to try to get into the content. So even if I'm doing an educational video, for example, I have a video on how I use the sauna. I started the video walking out in a park talking about how I was talking to a friend who was having difficulties in their business and like constantly having meetings and everything. And he was wondering, like, how do you not have meetings in your business? And I was saying, like, well, I just use a sauna and like everything lives in a sauna. And so therefore, and I use Loom as well. That's the other thing. And so, of course, I serve Squarespace designers and educate them how to be a designer. But again, like they might need a tool like Asana. So instead of just doing Squarespace posts, I also think about, again, more holistically, who are my people? What are the different content buckets that would interest them? Potentially seeing the behind the scenes of someone else's business, the other tools that are helpful to run a web design business. I don't know, general advice on like working with clients and like onboarding and offboarding and process and picking colors for a website. And of course, Squarespace stuff as well. So I'd really encourage people to think about who is your person and what other content do they want to.
This is really interesting and very fruitful. I wanna get to that in a second, talking more about who are your people and how you're getting them to click. But first is actually, I think, a really great place to pause briefly and say that, Paige, you have a resource that you wanted to share with the Circle Live audience today. Do you want to talk this up?
Yes. Okay. I have for you content creation outlines for surefire, profitable, and popular posts. This thing is an 18-page piece of gold. It is basically the outlines. If you're wondering, like, okay, I'm creating content, it's not ranking in Google, or like no one's really enjoying it, or it's not actually leading to a conversion of my business, there is such a thing as a really good piece of content and a really not so great piece of content. And so this will give you an outline on 3 typical like types of posts that you would use in your business. So an inspiration post, a step-by-step tutorial, and a case study post. Those are 3 super powerful types of posts and pieces of content that you could share. And so this gives you the outline of exactly what are the things to hit on, what are the aspects you need to be thinking about, making sure that you hit all the essential aspects. Of course, there's other things about like helpful content. And so anyways, there's in terms of like logistics of like hit this, and this, and basically those outlines go through it. So you can go to paigebrunton.com/outlines to get those.
And I think Taylor's going to share the link in chat. We'll also share the link in the show notes. So if you're watching this later, just check out the show notes. We'll share that there. Sarah, you want to take the next topic?
Yeah. Paige, I feel like obviously you put like so much effort into your content. I know you talked about blogs, you talked about YouTube. If I was someone who was like, okay, I know that I want a lot of people to find me, do you think that it's the same to like write a blog post and then put it into a YouTube video and then shorten the YouTube video and then put it on TikTok and then take the audio from that and make it into a podcast? Like, is that a recipe for success?
In my experience, no. I think, okay, so I even have a team at this point. Like I have people who help me run my business and I have people who help me with content creation. And even still, we are like managing 2 platforms well. And I have found, like, if I could think of one business hack, it's this. It's like do one thing really, really well. That is the essential aspect. And so I was just chatting to a business friend the other day and she was like, oh, okay, well, I think she's just doing a podcast now. She's like, well, I should also turn that into a blog post. And then, of course, I mean, I could just turn on the camera and then do it as a video. Then we could turn it into shorts and then we could do it on this platform and this platform and this platform. And I was like, and then she was like, but it all just feels so overwhelming. And I was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. So if you can manage that, amazing. I can't, even with a team. So I would say more important than trying to, and as I learned from my little like blog and adding YouTube, I still continue with the blog. Every single YouTube video has a accompanying blog post. What I learned from adding a second one was, again, like how much work that adds to the process and how every single one has a different strategy. So I actually do create some YouTube videos where I know it's like, it's not search-based. It is not, I'm not trying to hit Squarespace tutorial 2024, whatever. It's completely different. If you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see I had a video called Life Update, I'm Struggling, which is sexy, but not searchable. And so this YouTube has a completely different algorithm in terms of 70% of YouTube views come from suggested traffic or related videos and not search. So 30% of YouTube views are search-based, but the majority of views are actually from suggested. And what suggested means is just basically, as you're on your YouTube home screen, whatever's coming up there, that is suggested videos. And you are competing with the Mr. Beasts of the world on that area. So it is challenging. But so again, the main point I want to make here is like when I had a blog, I had one strategy: search. When I got on YouTube, I realized, oh, there's a completely different strategy. And if I also got on TikTok, and if I also got on Instagram Reels, and if I also got on every single other thing that's out there, like I am still learning. I have been like putting my brain power towards YouTube for a year and a half. And like I still have so much more to learn and still so much growth potential on that platform. So I'm not switching, not adding anything else until I really nail that second one. So at some point down the road, when, you know, I have a ginormous team and every person gets their own platform, like I've always said, if I have a team member who is thrilled on Instagram and they just want to take it and basically do it, amazing. But until that day happens, then we're not doing it. So we're not really on social media. So I hope that gives everyone hope that you don't need to be on social media to run a successful business.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like we talk so often about like the power of niching and like, you know, maybe for some people like Squarespace is their niche, or they're like, I only work with pizza restaurants or whatever their niche is. But it's like fun that the same principle kind of applies to the platforms that you're on, like picking one or two to be really, really good at instead of being like kind of mediocre at a lot of them seems like it makes sense as a strategy here too.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
I think also, you know, yeah, the wisdom that I've heard before that this seems to contradict is you have to be everywhere all the time. And what it sounds like you're saying is you can be everywhere, but don't expect to really build a connection, with your audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that things like specifically Instagram is incredible for building a connection with your audience, like 100%. What I think about is my ideal clients are in multiple different places. Where are they going to be and where do I want to show up? And where is the intersection of both of those things? So my audience is definitely on Instagram, but I just hate showing up on Instagram. I attempted for a while and then we were doing some like course launches. And so I would like do course launches where I would do a bunch of stories and I would do a bunch of posts and I would do a bunch of lives and everything. And then I did one where I just didn't do that and just completely eliminated it. And we saw no significant difference. And I was like, awesome. I don't need to do this anymore. Like I'm free from this platform, which I don't want to be on basically. So while it is the place where my audience is, if it's not also where I want to be, then it's not going to work. And so, yeah, I would say that my audience is in many places. I still have a huge potential in the YouTube pond. So until I tap that out, I'm just going to keep staying on too.
Yeah, I love that. If that's where they are, but it's not where I want to be, then it's not going to work. I think that's like so sage. I want to shift our conversation to conversion. With your content, what would you say the like specific CTA is that you're trying to drive people towards?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that, so I'll say what mine is, and I'll also say what I think people's should be, depending on what you sell, because it does depend on what you sell. So I sell courses, which are a larger investment, tends to be like a couple $1,000s is what people are spending with us. And it also is kind of like they're making a life change decision, like, and now I want to be a web designer. And so that is obviously like not your t-shirt purchase, for example. If I was selling t-shirts, I would just go straight for the sale. Anything under a few $100s. So if you want to sell website templates, I think just going straight for the sale is a great decision. However, the downside of going straight for the sale is that if that person came to your website for one thing, didn't buy and left again, you have no way to get back in touch with them. And that's a problem. And especially if you're selling something which takes a lot more of like the building the know, like, trust factor, and you're selling something which is pricier, then I think that you really need a way to get back in touch with them. And I wouldn't make that way something like social media because you cannot control that algorithm. And so what I would do is definitely an email list. An email list is the essential, vital, like literally the most valuable thing you could ever have in your business. If you took away my entire business and just left me with my email list, I could build a very successful business in a very short period of time. If I don't have the email list, it's going to take a lot longer. So yeah, I would say really think about what is it that you're selling. For all the designers who are watching and they're selling higher price services, you want to get back in touch with that person. So make sure that the end call to action on every single post, multiple times throughout the post. I even create, if you go to my blog, you'll notice we make these little like kind of like advertisements, like you were doing your little advertisement for the referral program at the beginning. We have like little advertisements for our freebies throughout our blog posts. I try to naturally mention them in the content of a YouTube video or in a blog post. Sometimes I'll even just create a freebie. I don't do this all the time because that would be an insane amount of work. And I have to think about like ROI. But if you have a blog post and you're like, oh, it would be really good to have this, like, this is the missing piece that they need, basically, then yeah, that is highly intelligent. So make sure, like, don't just have it. So many people, they just have a freebies page, stick their freebies up there, and that's it. But you also want to have it a pop-up for it. You want to have it like promoted throughout the post. You want to have it naturally mentioned in the post. You want to have a call to action at the end of the post. You want to have an announcement bar. Like, you want it literally everywhere, so they see it multiple times before they leave.
Wow, this strategy is like so robust. I feel like I'm learning things. I mean, I always learn on Circle Life, but I feel like I'm especially learning right now. With like your courses, obviously that was something you added eventually. Has your CTA like kind of evolved and changed? And how do you think about how might someone who's like thinking about like getting started, building their email list or kind of like diversifying their presence online, think about like setting a first CTA?
Yeah. Okay. So first you need to figure out what the end goal of your website is, for sure. So is it a sale right away? Is it getting back in touch with the person because you have a higher price service? Then it should be email, in my personal opinion. Then you have to think about, what am I going to give this person that's going to make them want to join this? Like, what would be a heck yes for them? So I'll start with the biggest mistake that I see people make, and that is creating a freebie that takes them an unbelievable amount of time, or creating a new freebie like with every post or something. Like, that is just highly unsustainable. I have seen people use the same freebies for like 5 years and they still do well. And we've also had the same experience. So like, you don't need to constantly be creating new ones by any means. When you find a good one and it converts well, if you use something that you can see the conversions and everything on the opt-ins, it is very useful. But anyway, so yeah, big mistake is making something that like, it can be a one-page PDF. It does not need to be a 39-day email mini course. It does not need to be a 17-hour training. Like, don't make your life that hard. So that's the first thing. And then what was remind me the question?
I think we kind of answered it. It was just like, if you were just getting started, like where would you?
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
And then the next thing I do is I would think about, who is my ideal client? What is the big question in their mind? And if you don't know that yet, go talk to your ideal client. Like, do you serve, I don't know, horse stables or like equestrian businesses or something? What is the specific thing which they need? If there is something like, maybe, for example, you're doing some sort of like comparison post between like two different softwares, like additional softwares that they might need in addition to their website. And they're trying to determine like, oh, do I want X software or Y software as an equestrian business owner or something? Then you could have like, that would be something that is like genuinely super useful for your people. So think about, again, who is the ideal client? What is the biggest problem in their mind, or what is the next problem which they need to solve? I worked with you can also use this to prepare your people to work with you, so you get better prepared clients. So I worked with a Facebook ads manager once, and she had this like checklist basically of like, are you ready to work with a Facebook ads manager? And she had this giant list of like, you need to have this, you need to have this, your whatever needs to convert like this, your like page needs to not have a link to this and this because that's against Facebook guidelines. Like, she had this incredible list of things, which was like, one, helpful for me to know, and two, helpful for her because when I came to her as a client, she was like, I was prepared. So also think through, what is it that you're kind of annoyed by that people don't have ready when they work with you? And you could also turn that into some sort of opt-in freebie.
Love
that. We have one more question for you before we break, and then we'll go into Q&A. But this question, sort of specific to us and based on the conversation that we had with you initially before this episode, which is, the new Squarespace landscape is just so much more crowded now, right? Is this blogging video route a route that you would recommend people taking?
Yep, great question. Okay, I would recommend you take it if this brings you joy. I never recommend you do any sort of marketing strategy that you just want to pull your hair out on. Like, if you force me to do Instagram, I wouldn't have a business because I just couldn't do it. So if you would enjoy it, yes. I think the question you're asking is basically like, is it too crowded? Do I even have a chance of ranking? When I started writing blog posts on Squarespace, believe me, I was not the only one. Like, there was definitely already people who were doing this. I do think that it is of service to people. I think about travel bloggers back in the day. There was this guy named Matt and nomadicmatt.com. And he was like, his niche was travel blogging. He wasn't a lifestyle blogger. He wasn't a fashion blogger. He was a travel blogger. And that was niche enough. However, time went on, and now we have like solo female travel bloggers, and we have luxury travel bloggers, and we have budget backpacking travel bloggers, and we have van life travel bloggers, and we have sailing travel bloggers and everything. And so I think that it is very of service to you, especially if you want to rank when you're smaller or newer or don't have the domain authority or the backlinks or whatever. Is to go for more specific targeted things. So again, if I was serving the equestrian industry, I would think about what exactly do they need? Or I would think about something that always did well for me. Pro tip, use this one. Is like 10 amazing photographer websites built on Squarespace, or 10 example whatever. Because when people want to build a website, they always want examples first to look at because they want to copy it. But anyways, that's a different problem. But yeah, so that is a piece of content which is more specific, which you have a better chance of ranking with. So whatever your thing is, if you're like, how to design the perfect homepage on Squarespace, that might be hard to rank for right now. But you could get more specific with how to design your spa homepage on Squarespace, for example. That is going to definitely be worthwhile for the beginning. But in terms of, is it too busy? No. And like, I constantly have students who are choosing to do this as their marketing strategy. And I can also say that like when I did this as my marketing strategy, I actually got too many clients, which is why in the first place I went to courses anyways. So yeah, I was getting like an inquiry a day through Google from creating content. So yeah, and I have plenty of students who use this as marketing strategy and have started more recently. It definitely takes, your content needs to be, better than it had to be a couple years ago. I would also suggest more specific, but again, those outlines will really help you make your content like hit some of the things that we're talking about.
All right. Well, it's going to take a while. So audience, get that content strategy started. We are going to have to take a pause for a quick ad break right now. Paige, so great to have you. We're going to bring you back in a sec for audience Q&A. Please, audience, put your questions in the chat. We will be bringing them back just after this ad break.
Here at Squarespace HQ, we say that every day is Circle Day, but really we know that you want to know about one specific Circle Day, when you can come visit our office, digitally or physically, and meet up with the best entrepreneurs, designers, digital nomads, and business gurus on the internet. Circle Day 2024 registration is now live on September 18th. Come join us online or in person to learn about new products, new business opportunities, and meet the people like you who are making Squarespace the best commerce and website platform in the business. This year's theme is Power Up, incorporating all parts of the Squarespace suite of products to add excitement and energy to your client calls, courses, and online content. And if you don't live in one of the Americas, we're powering up this year's Circle Day with a new offering for international audiences. Circle Day World Loop will offer 2 encore presentations of all Circle Day content with localized content in a time zone and language convenient for you. It's going to be an international party, so sign up now at circleday.squarespace.com.
And we're back. Let's dive right into this Q&A here. Sarah, what kind of questions do we have for Paige?
Yes, we got a bunch, Paige. I'm really excited. So we have a question from Peter who says, I struggle with new and catchy content so many times. I'm a designer traditionally from a print background, not a content creator. Should I be employing a content creator to supplement my design skills or learn to do it better myself?
I think it's a question of budget. Do you have the money to hire someone to do it? The other thing is I can say, I have a bunch of mastermind friends who are always like, hey, how can I hire someone to like just do this for me? And the other thing is that it is a little bit tough to find someone who's genuinely good at this. I chose to do it myself. I chose to learn it myself. And then I do train my team. Like I do have my team help me with it. And so I think that is a potential route. I find, the best thing that I do in my business is like, I'll figure it out, I'll learn it, and then I figure out my way, my strategy, and then I basically like try to teach that to someone else. So yeah, granted, if you just have money to throw around, awesome. And I mean, I'm sure you can find someone who's good at it and everything. But just know that it also takes a little bit of you knowing what is good to know who to hire. That's the other thing. So that's the things I would think about. What is your budget? And do you have access as well to get the people to hire who would be good at this too, is the other thing I would think about. So again, my choice was to start with it myself and then teach my team, but up to you.
Yeah. I think there's something interesting to be said as well for like if you want to be the face of it, like with YouTube, obviously the camera's on somebody. So, are you hiring someone and then they're just kind of an extension of your brand, or are they just recording you? Or are they putting together the strategy? Is there like a specific way you thought about tackling that as you were hiring people?
Yep, definitely. I have a YouTube video about this. It's called A Personal Brand versus Business Brand. Which one is right for me? Definitely worth watching, Peter, because there's a lot of factors that go into this. And so I think if you are going to go the route, if you're doing anything visual, so if it's just blog post, cool, anyone can write it. No one's going to know who wrote it. No problem. But if it is anything visual, so again, even on social media or on YouTube, you don't want your audience to build a super strong connection with one person who isn't you, because you can't guarantee that that person's going to be there for a long time. And I've seen a lot of businesses get in a tricky situation when the relationship has been built with, for example, John and not Peter, and then John leaves, and then you're stuck. They don't even know who you are. And so that if I was in that situation where I was hiring other people, like I want to be like a Dave Ramsey and have the Ramsey personalities, I would make sure I'm always hiring at least 2 at the same time to do that, so that we can build the relationship with multiple people. It's the same as like a talk show. They tend to have like multiple people at once. So if one person leaves, it's not like typically if that one person leaves, that talk show is ended. It's not like then they switch it to someone else's name. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really smart. Okay, question from Jason. How did you discover your target audience, or did they discover you? Cute.
That's a great question. Yeah. Okay. Great question, Jason. I thought I knew who my target audience was, and then they turned out to be not completely different, but different from what I expected them to be. So I started a web design business because I'd moved to Europe. I didn't speak the language of the country I moved to. And so I was like, started a web design business, and then eventually scaled that, got too many inquiries from ranking in Google, decided to start a course. And the thing which I assumed was I'd be speaking to other people in that situation who, moved, I don't know, digital nomaded. Like I thought that's who I was going to be targeting. I got so many moms who became my students, and I was like, I don't have kids. That's interesting. So the reason for that is because a lot of them, they had worked some sort of job, then they had a child, and then they realized, wow, commuting every day or like these number of hours or whatever is not going to work with this newborn. And so therefore I want a job that I can do from home, which is also well paid. And so I have a lot of new moms in my audience. And so yeah, I knew enough to know like it's going to be people who want to build websites on Squarespace. But even at the time, my intention wasn't to teach other people how to be designers. It was just to teach like the one-to-one service clients who I couldn't serve because I didn't have enough like capacity of myself. I was like, I'll just teach them how to build their own website. Turns out if they just want to have a really quick, good looking website, they actually mostly go for templates, not a course. Only the people who really want to like learn it to then offer it as something they're, getting paid for in future. Mostly those are the people who are actually interested to like take a 12-hour course on building Squarespace websites.
That's a really good learning. And it's like great that you're able to kind of pivot and evolve and adapt as you learn more about your customers.
And maybe that's what takes a lot of the time too, is that, with building this content, there's a lot of stuff that isn't going to work. And through trial and error, you are also continuing to ask the question, who am I talking to here?
Yep. I do surveys, and I would definitely recommend that. Like that is an exceptionally useful thing to do, or just ask questions in your emails. Also really great for your like email deliverability. If you ask questions and they respond, then that's also really good for not getting put in spam and promotions. So yeah. But also, sorry, I kind of missed the second part of the question was, did they discover you? Because I create content, yes, it's more like they're discovering me. I'm putting out the content, they discover me. It's not so much I'm like going out to find clients or students or whatever. It's mostly they're finding my stuff.
Cool. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, get time for one more.
Okay. Multifaceted Lorraine, okay, obsessed, says, where does that leave us as true solopreneurs? What can we do? This gets existential. Is there any hope for us? Pick one, stay consistent, and hope for the best. Okay, Lorraine, I have a team now. I did not always have a team. This was a one-woman show for a long, long, long time. So yeah, if you're a solopreneur, then definitely picking one is very, very, very important. Now, I talk a lot about blogging. I talk a lot about YouTube because those are mine, but that also might not actually be the right strategy for you.
I can also mention I have a quiz. It's called Which Client Finding Method Matches Your Personality Type. It's at paigebrunton.com/quiz. And that will give you an idea of like which marketing strategy is actually right for you. And I 1,000% encourage you to do one. Like all of my most successful designer friends, they all just have like one or maybe two, once they got the first one going really well, one or two strategies that they do, not 10. So do know that yes, it's possible. Like I was blogging twice a week as a one-woman show for a very long time. Only once I got when I will say, if you want to get into video, that's when I do suggest some help. So I didn't do video. Like I just only blogged for like, I think 6 years or something before I ever started doing video. Also, a factor was I travel a lot, and so therefore didn't have like a space and everything, but also didn't have the team because it does take a lot more effort to produce a video, get it edited, all those things. So also be realistic with like how much time do I have and what are the easier to create on platforms, and of course, which one would you actually enjoy? I think those are the key bits.
Something else I noticed about you, Paige, that is, I don't even know if you're aware of it, but just in every piece of content that you're mentioning that's yours, you know the exact URL, you know exactly how to find it, and you have it, as they say, right there. So I think that that's another really important strategy with content, is that if you're going to be putting something out there, know where it is, so that when you have a captive audience, you can just say, this is where you're going right now.
Yep, exactly. Also, I can say that quizzes are really great. I mean, I'm sure a bunch of you just went to that quiz and started taking it. People love a good quiz. So I would say I do recommend the quiz. And also, knowing your most popular freebies, that's our most popular freebie. Knowing it and just knowing the link and having the link only be one word, / one thing, not dash this, dash that, dash that. So yeah.
Right.
Paige, I am so glad that our website searches led us to you and that you were right here the whole time. It's been such a delight to have you today on Circle Live.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely to see you all. Thank you everyone for coming live. I really appreciate it.
Yay. Thanks for joining us, Paige.
Thanks.
We will be seeing you in all of that content that you've shared online and on YouTube. This is great. Keep making great content, everybody. That's all for today's show. Until next Circle Live, this is Sam Z.
And I'm Sarah G.
Reminding you that no email campaign, no email camp game.
Bye, everybody.